30 years ago, the DOEN Foundation was founded by the Dutch postcode lottery, with the mission to finance the ideas of innovators who were determined to change our world for the better. A greener, more socially inclusive and creative world can only be created by working together. So we started by supporting some pioneers with the dream of developing their ideas into reality. The result was amazing. Every year, we have the opportunity to finance marvelous initiatives. You know about some of them, while others you might not. But to us, they're equally important. You've seen everyone riding on these blue and yellow bikes. Learned of that collective in Kenya who share their untold stories through art. Heard about those sad, ugly vegetables that finally get the appreciation they deserve. That neighborhood initiative from Rotterdam that leads to wonderful connections. Those circular jeans that change the fashion world. And that phone that lasts forever because it is so smartly made. And then there was this project, and another, and this one. Okay, so you get the picture. All of this was made possible by the players of the Dutch postcode lottery and the Friends lottery. And of course, we really would like to thank all the beautiful pioneers whose groundbreaking initiatives are proving that our world really can change.
Welcome everyone to the 30-year anniversary of the DOEN Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us for this very special and festive event. My name is Marieke IJskoot. I'm a sustainability and conscious living expert, author of This is a Good Guide for a Sustainable Lifestyle, as well as a speaker and presenter. And it's a real honor to be your host for this program. 30 years ago, the DOEN Foundation was founded by the Dutch postcode lottery to support small, innovative organizations with grants, loans and investment capital. Today, the DOEN Foundation annually receives 30 million euros from the Dutch postcode lottery and the Friends lottery, which is divided between 200 to 300 amazing pioneers each year. And now, here we are, celebrating 30 years of existence with you, all partners and relations of the DOEN Foundation, and of course, partners of investment company DOEN Participaties, of the Friends Lottery Fund and the Postcode Lottery Neighborhood Fund, who all belong to the DOEN family. The DOEN Foundation at the moment supports about 850 wonderful initiatives. We get to highlight a few today, but of course it goes without saying that all of them are important and impactful. With this event, we want to celebrate our anniversary with you and also shortly look ahead at, hopefully, the next 30 years. But before we do that, let's have a look at where you're watching from. We're coming to you live and direct from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, but the DOEN Foundation has partners all over the world, and I'm curious to see where you're watching from. So if you want to share this with us, please type it in the poll section next to the Q&A section. Oh, Edinburgh, welcome. Sweden, tack så mycket for watching. Kampala even. The Hague, Amsterdam, Nairobi, Düsseldorf, herzlich willkommen, Deutschland. Oh, my dream was always to host the Eurovision Song Contest. This all of a sudden has this amazing feel, 12 points for all of you. Thank you so much from all over the world, Beirut, Nairobi. It's amazing that you're all here. Welcome, and thank you so much. Now, by typing in the Q&A section, you can ask our speakers and guests questions today. Of course, when they come to me, I'll announce when you can do this. They will be moderated and then sent to me. And I will do my best to get an answer to as many as possible of them, but we do have a jam-packed schedule. So if I don't get to yours, that's why. It's also important to note that this event will be recorded. You can find it and also share it from our website, doen.nl. Now, let's get this show on the road, shall we? A huge virtual round of applause for our first two guests, the co-directors of the DOEN Foundation, Carol Gripnau and Idris Noor. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And congratulations. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
30 years. That's amazing. What were you doing 30 years ago?
Yeah, it's a long time
It's
back.
a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I just graduated and had returned from Mali, where I'd done 9 months of academic research. And I came back really thrilled with all the new insights and learnings of things I'd been taught at university, but I'd now experienced in real life things about inequality and poverty. And it's also where I really discovered my passion about the balance between natural environment and people, and the need to find a better balance between the two. Because also this is so extremely important for more vulnerable groups in society.
So 30 years ago was quite an important moment for you
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. How about yourself, Idris?
Well, you finished your study. I just started studying. I think it was the first semester of my study educational sciences in Frankfurt, where I'm originally from. And I think, I'm quite sure I came back from a longer trip to the Middle East.
You've been traveling quite a bit. Interesting and important, of course, I imagine, for the work you do. Carol, you have been one of the 2 directors for about a year now. What impresses you the most about the DOEN Foundation?
Yeah, well, I started obviously in the middle of the pandemic, and that pandemic has hit and affected our partners really hard in the Netherlands, but also abroad in countries like, well, you mentioned them, Kenya, Mali, India, and so on, where our partners are active. And I've been really impressed by the resilience of our partners to deal with this crisis in terms of sustaining their organizations, adjusting their programming, but also even developing new programs and products. Yeah. So just to give an example, I mean, sustainable energy company in India that was providing solar energy to rural health clinics to provide vaccines to rural people, or local communities undertaking all sorts of support for more vulnerable groups in their community in completely new ways.
Wow.
So that flexibility and creativity was really inspiring. Yeah, it was really lovely to see. And what is interesting is that DOEN supports many smaller initiatives, you could say, but together they lead to a larger change. And I think the example of the Postcode Lottery Neighborhood Fund is a very interesting one, because this fund over the past year has supported hundreds of initiatives across the country where people from the community connected and undertook all sorts of activities to make their direct environment more livable. And for me, this is really what DOEN is about. It starts with small initiatives that inspire others and can lead to larger societal change.
Amazing. That's amazing to see, and also quite inspiring, I think.
Definitely.
Yes. Idris, the DOEN Foundation wouldn't exist without the Dutch Postcode Lottery. We will hear from CEO Sigrid van Aken later, but could you explain us a little bit about the special relationship between DOEN and the lotteries?
Well, of course, it's a very, very special relationship because they founded us in the first place. So without them, there wouldn't be any DOEN. And I think what is also very special is that the lotteries, as charity lotteries, only had been founded with the idea to support the civil society. And they started in the Netherlands, and now you have them in more countries. And you see that the philosophy is also not only just to choose every year what you support. You have a long-term relationship with all the partners, with the civil society, which I think is in these times very important. You have, it's based on trust. Yeah. And what is also very important, it's unearmarked. So you can imagine in times of crisis, where we are in right now, and in times of COVID, it was very special to have a partner like the lotteries to support those organizations. And we are their fund, meaning our relationship is also based on trust. I think we have more also the role to take risks, to be curious, to make small things big, or leave small things small, but tell the story why small things matter. And you see, it's 40%, I think, of all the household in the Netherlands, 3 million players. So it's also a powerhouse we are part of, we can communicate to. So I think, it's a very special relationship we have.
And you do so much good with it. Thank you so much to both of you for your wonderful work, and all the best of luck with that. I'm just going to say for the next 30 years.
Thank you so much.
Carol Gripnau, Idris Noor.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's time for the first of our 2 panels with DOEN partners today. You can ask our guests questions after the session, so don't hesitate to put yours in the Q&A section and do tell us who your question is for. It'll be one of these 3. Please welcome from the Black Archives, Mitchell Assayas, from IDIT, Mireille Gijzen, and from Mud Jeans, Bert van Son. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today on this celebration day. Mitchell, I'm going to start with you. The Black Archives in Amsterdam contains over 10,000 books and documents and artifacts about the history of black people in the Netherlands. Issues such as racism, resistance, slavery, decolonization are discussed, along with themes such as gender identity and feminism. What can, I'm going to say what must, really, we learn from history that we can use today?
First of all, congratulations to Stichting DOEN and all of its employees, and thanks for having me. The Black Archives strives to contribute to a more inclusive society, because we believe that by learning from the past, we can contribute to a better future. When we look at our current society, there are a lot of social issues, and not just social issues, also economic, in terms of sustainability, such as racism and different forms of inequality, which are directly related to colonial history. And by learning about it, we believe that we can contribute to at least challenging these issues, challenging these problems.
And you're not on your own, of course. You're very
Absolutely
important in the Netherlands, but how is your work part of a larger, maybe even worldwide movement?
Definitely over the past decade, you could say that a movement arose against racism, addressing the lack of attention that colonial history gets in our educational systems and in broader society. Internationally, for example, we've seen the Black Lives Matter protests. In the Dutch context, we've seen the rise of a movement against Zwarte Piet, the national tradition reflecting colonial history. And in that context, I think the Black Archives arose as a place where people can understand where these kinds of movements and issues come from. So I think and hope that we really are able to fill in a gap which exists in society.
Yes, a gap of knowledge, a gap of awareness, and
Indeed.
also of involvement, I'd say. Because it's quite important, of course, I feel, that people are involved in all the work.
Absolutely.
So how do you involve people with your work?
Currently we are in Amsterdam South, and we actually started as a student organization right around the corner at VU University. So we really started as a grassroots organization of students and volunteers who also felt the need to address these issues. And we kind of evolved organically into the foundation in which we are now. What we really try to do is involve people who are intrinsically motivated to learn more about these issues and share it with others. We started with about 5 people. Now we have a group of about 30 people, freelancers, volunteers, and a core team of 4 to 5 people.
Yeah.
And
but you reach so many more.
Absolutely.
And to involve those people, of course, is also, I'm going to say, probably a core aim of what you do.
Absolutely. We have high ambitions to reach as many people as possible, both nationally and internationally.
Yeah.
And one of the ways we try to do this is through partnerships. So we work a lot together with other institutions, from the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam to, we've had some contact with Van Abbe Museum. Charles is one of the people we've worked with.
Yeah.
And through those kinds of collaborations, I think we've been able to reach different audiences as well.
Which is, I think, for me, one of the most important issues also in this day and age. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
For your work. Mireille, together with people with a distance to the label market, creates products, circular bags, accessories of leftover fabric, so you work both in a social and a sustainable way. When and why was started, or you did, of course. Why did you do that?
Well, let's start also with congrats for Stichting DOEN, of course. I remember all the times that DOEN supported us and the celebration we got then. I started in 2009, and the goal was, well, I was seeing that people who really wanted to join society, the working society, didn't get the chance. And I worked a lot, and I enjoyed working. So I thought, why not by entrepreneurship make an inclusive society by working? So social inclusion by work for everyone is the mission of I Did. And it started with a personal story. I got a friend who came here as a refugee, and she didn't get the chance, so I thought,
so you thought, I'm going to make this happen.
Move. Yeah,
well done.
Yeah,
that's often how such a small spark then becomes this massive movement, which is amazing. You've succeeded really well. I hope you're really proud of that.
We are.
Good. Yes, of course. Do you have an idea why you succeeded where maybe some others didn't?
Well, I thought about that, and especially you hear me saying we are. I think that when you start something like this, and the goal of this company is not making a lot of money, but having a purpose, people join you who have the same purpose. So maybe that's the strength, that you don't have to do it alone. Because I can also tell, of course, that it's a bumpy road, and you have to get on, and you have to, and you have to be flexible. But this is something which all entrepreneurs, I think, should have. But I think the purpose made it, a big family.
That's a very interesting lesson, of course, to learn, that your purpose not just gives you a sort of road to go to, but also even more of a force, really.
Yeah.
I can imagine that's something you're quite proud of. Can you tell me something else that you are, you can just say it, you're proud of, you and the whole team?
Yeah, and the whole team. Well, we are very proud that, because you were telling, we make a material from discarded textiles. We make a special felt, recycled felt out of it. And we did that with partners before, but this was a very big industry. So in the last years, also supported by DOEN, we developed our own factory, our own felt factory. And it is situated in The Hague, and it's almost up and running. I think we needed few weeks, and it's a real big, not so big as the partners had, but it's quite a big factory.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are independent now.
Cool.
Making the material ourselves, and very important, we can do research and development now.
And develop and grow even bigger and start doing more. And
there's so much textile waste.
Southwest, yes.
Yeah, 330 kilos. Million kilos, per year, only in Holland.
Yeah.
So
that's
let's
amazing.
move on and make not only felt of it, but what can we do with the fibers and etc. So reinventing this process makes us very happy.
Well done, and thank you for doing that. Bert, jeans create jeans made of about 40% old jeans, so post-consumer waste. So our jeans, you make new ones of them, and of course, you were the first company really with a lease model, and quite famous for it as well.
Yeah.
Was it easy to find funding at the start for this idea?
Very easy. I was extremely rich myself, and I just put all the money in, and I thought I can make this, and it's going to happen. And it took me 2 years to realize that building a brand, and especially in the jeans world, is next to impossible.
Yeah.
So, I want to say first, of course, congratulations. We are celebrating our 10th years today.
Congratulations.
So, I'm also very honored to be here, because there are multiple companies that DOEN has been supporting, so proud to be here. Of course, you run into trouble after 2 or 3 years trying to do something totally different in the jeans industry.
Yeah.
Building a brand is already next to impossible. trying to do it in a proper way and recycling all jeans and trying to treat the people well in the whole chain from the beginning of the cotton to the end product in your closet is also extremely difficult. So we got a call in 2013 from Stichting DOEN. I've never heard of them before. I had never heard of them.
No.
And it was very nice. We were in this battle and trying to do things right and trying to connect all the dots and see how we could work. And suddenly there's this unexpected help. Of course, you need money, you need to grow, you need more stock, you need to shout out loud. Everything costs money. So yeah, that was the start of our cooperation with DOEN, with a small loan and then a bigger loan. And now they are participants. So
yes, they're investing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And does that also help to sort of persuade others to invest in your company?
Yeah, it was also the province of North Holland joined, and they insisted on having a partner. Right. So that's where DOEN also helps to be the first and get other people. And also banks, if you take a bank loan on site, DOEN is ready to step back and right. not be the first to be, it all is very flexible and helpful.
So is that also, to have an impact investor such as DOEN, is that different from other investors or...
Well, the other people that invested also in our company are the people that work for the company. I think it's important to be a team and a good team and also feel entrepreneurs all together. So those are also good investors because they're more motivated, I would say.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of talks with other kind of investors, but it didn't feel good. We prefer to stay little, to small, and to grow with our own funds and with our own force and wait for the right investor.
Let's maybe for all of you do a little experiment almost. Let's imagine that the three of you are now the executive board of the DOEN Foundation. Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
What would you change straight away?
What would I change?
Yes, I mean, I'm sure you're all very happy with how it's going, but tell us, because they want to know and learn, what should change?
Well, I didn't expect this question.
Well, maybe someone else has a straight question. Mireille, go on.
I thought about that maybe a sort of network of entrepreneurs around all the social firms. Because, and also visiting, I would visit, if I was a director, I would visit the how do you say, initiatives. Mm-hmm. And because of making a big network around them, so that you don't only depend on DOEN but just partnering in the entrepreneurship, I would prefer. Yeah, I think.
So bring social entrepreneurs within the network together, and also visit.
No,
the entrepreneurs.
Bringing them together is already happening.
Right.
So we meet each other everywhere, but the business, well, the normal, or how do you say, not that are not social, but all the other companies.
The general companies, not specifically social companies,
Yeah. So, well, connecting them with us, because we are all under our own stone, working hard, our heads off. So it would be nice, well, if I was a director, I think I would make a sort of network and connecting them and visiting them so that that I would know all the initiative too. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your suggestion. Any others?
Our business is about volume.
Yeah.
And that's hard. The bigger we can recycle, the easier it gets and the quality gets better. So I would really help. They are doing it now, but I would really ask them for help to get our products wider sold.
Internationally as well?
No,
or
internationally we're quite... Holland would be nice already.
Good, okay.
So they are buying things, Postcode Loterij and Stichting DOEN, and it would be nice if they try more. But I know they're doing it, so it's not a... that would help us, to get the chance to join in to sell products that the Postcode Loterij, for instance, is giving away. Or
so that's quite specific, straightforward support of what you do. Yeah. Mitchell?
Yeah, I think I'd build on that as well. I think what everybody kind of agrees upon is that the foundation, Stichting DOEN, has a huge network, which has a lot of potential for amplifying the impact of all these different initiatives. And when I saw the first question that was being asked, that people from all around the world, I think I saw Uganda, Kenya, all parts of the Netherlands, people are tuning in from.
Yeah.
I think it could be very interesting to find ways to amplify the different initiatives by connecting them also internationally.
Yeah.
I think it would be fascinating to learn about the archive in Kenya or Uganda and see how, our work could complement their work. So I think that could be very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so use the massive network and an international force.
Yeah, for international impact.
Yeah, amazing. For the three of you, just maybe one thing, as the new consecutive board, the one thing that really must stay, in a word or two words. The first thing that comes to mind. What shouldn't change at all?
Well-chosen projects.
Right.
It's important to spend your money right.
Yeah.
There's so much happening, which is more or less.
Well, so it's important to choose well. Be very careful with that. Yeah.
Keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. Keep doing it. Yes.
Of course, the same, but and then afterwards also keep. I just say the finger on the right spot. Keep connecting.
Right.
Keep more maybe entrepreneuring with us. So because
good.
I told it's a bumpy road.
Yeah.
And you have to be flexible. So. Yeah.
Stay connected.
And they
stay
do.
in touch.
They do. So
yes.
that has to stay. Yeah.
That has to stay. Thank you, Mitchell.
I briefly looked at the website before the panel, of course, and one of the things I really liked about the vision was the element of radical imagination. So I think a lot of other organizations and funds and people in general tend to kind of stay in the comfort zone, and especially with the work that we are doing, challenging the status quo and touching upon sensitive issues.
Yeah.
It's important to have support from something like Stichting DOEN or another large company or organization. So I think that is a very important element of the vision which should be valued.
Thanks. I think you would be a really good executive board. Thank you so much. Let's have a quick look at the questions of our viewers. Thank you so much for sending them in. I have a question for Mitchell here. What the ultimate goal is, or the ultimate change the Black Archives would like to see in Dutch society? Thank you for that question.
It may sound a bit strange, but ultimately it would be amazing if our work isn't necessary anymore.
No, that's not strange. It's a great goal, yes, to not be needed.
Yeah. One of the reasons why we exist is because there's a gap in knowledge and attention around colonial history, Black history, and its legacy in our educational society and wider society, educational institutions and wider society. So if all that fascinating information and the beautiful stories that we have in our archives and collection become part of our collective memory via our educational systems, cultural institutions, I think that would be amazing, especially when it leads to a more inclusive society where issues such as racism are a thing of the past.
Better sooner than later. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yes. Mireille, how has DOEN helped you to overcome the challenges you faced when starting up? Thank you.
Well, let's say that my business partner, Michiel Dekkers, and myself, just I think it's not only being very nice together and having trust, but in the end, DOEN trusts us all the time. Yeah. So it's during that bumpy road, I think, managed to keep them aboard. But of course, sometimes they thought well, this is really enough. What you're doing or suggesting now, just keep calm, Michiel and Mireille, because you are really wanting too much at the time. But in the end, we can always persuade them to move with us. Yeah. So what helped is just trust, I think. Vice versa.
Both ways.
Both ways.
Yeah. Thank you. Bet, do you have a brilliant failure to share with us that we can learn from? I'd love to hear this.
I'm the king of brilliant failure.
That's why.
I don't know where to start, but one of the things was that when we launched Lisa Jeans, the backside of the company wasn't totally ready for it. So I started leasing jeans out, and my friends, of course, helped me and said, well, Lisa Jeans. And after 3 months, they were calling me and saying, Bert, you don't take any money from our account, so you're not going to survive this way. So
you're just giving away the jeans.
It was a wild plan. We just started, and we realized after half a year it was very, very difficult to organize the backside and have it all connected to your bookkeeping and your account. Nightmare. But okay, we're still alive. Any other?
Well, I was going to ask, and I'm just going to do it, what you would recommend to social entrepreneurs who are either starting or scaling up.
Yeah.
Maybe this is not the best recommendation, but I'm sure, you got through it. So there's also a lesson to learn there, I guess.
For me, it was very clearly to stay on our path. We had a dream 10 years ago, and it's still the same dream today. And I agree with Mitchell. It would be nice if we wouldn't be necessary anymore in the jeans industry. But keep to your plan. I had a compliment the other day when I talked about our company, and somebody in the crowd said, I saw you 10 years ago, and you said exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice. Of course, things have changed, and there's a lot of happening. But stick to your plan, believe in what you do, and with all things that go wrong, just keep going. But I think you agree, right?
Yeah, the same words, yeah. Keep believing, keep focused, but, well, keep it here.
Yeah.
And follow that, because that's the path where you started. So, well, just go inside every time.
And
am I doing the right thing? Yeah.
That's where the force comes from inside. Yeah. Would that be something that you also experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think it's important to stick to your vision, but also stay open and flexible, because circumstances change and people can add new elements. You can learn from your mistakes. So stick to the vision, but also be open to adapt it towards the circumstances.
And by doing that, we can sort of make sure that we're not necessary anymore, because the world has changed for the better, right?
So.
Thank you so much. Mitchell Assayas, Mireille Gijzen, Bert van Son. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, next up, a video made in cooperation with our long-time partner, Action for Hope, which since 2015 offers creative activities in and around refugee camps.
Action for Hope provides communities that are displaced from their original homelands with the tools they need to express themselves creatively, to tell their stories and to share these stories in creative ways with the world. We do this through different programs. We do arts training in film and music and theater and storytelling in different Arab countries. I cannot imagine life without artistic expression. For me, it's like food, basically. It's no less important than food.
One story I remember very well is the story of an older lady who had to leave Syria walking. She described that when she arrived there, what it did to her to see some Syrian old poetry. And that she said, as much as bread and shelter is important, this is maybe the most important thing.
A 14-year-old girl or boy who find themselves in a refugee camp in Lebanon or in Jordan, and they don't understand exactly what happened. Why are we here? What happened to our old home? All these questions remain not asked. They don't tell them, they don't pronounce them until they have the tools to do this, and then they can do this in a beautiful way, and then others can relate to their story and to their suffering.
Maybe I should talk shortly about the film school. What was so impressive for me was that they thought, what we do now with this film school is for everyone. But of course, especially for the people from the camp, but we are also open for young people from the village. And what struck me was that it was so professionally well done that you could immediately see that is high quality.
I'm always touched by the impact on individuals, on people. I mean, the change you see in one human being is the most inspiring and moving thing. So I'm very touched when I see a young man or a young woman who were able to change their lives and maybe the lives of others around them, just single-handedly with some help from us. This is always the most touching thing.
DOEN supports Action for Hope because it combines the power of people not to wait but to act, and because DOEN is believing that arts and culture matters to move the world a bit further in the right direction.
It comes very close to being a friendship. The support of DOEN has a moral value to us because it means that we are not lonely warriors. We are not alone in this. There are others who care about what's happening in this region and in the world generally. I think the future will be very difficult. More will be asked of us, more will be asked from organizations like DOEN, because basically humanity needs to find more and better ways to overcome serious obstacles. Because I honestly believe that no one can survive alone. So we need to survive together.
Amazing work. Thank you so much, Action for Hope. Time to welcome our keynote speaker. Charles Escher is the director of the Van Abbe Museum in Eindhoven, the Netherlands. He's also convinced that sharing imagination through art is one of the first steps towards changing society for the better. You can ask him questions after his keynote. You can, of course, put them in the Q&A. Please, your attention for Charles Escher.
Hello, and congratulations to my friends in Stichting DOEN for 30 years of extraordinary work, and some of it you've just seen now. Now, I've been asked here to speak about the role of art and its impact on the quest for that better global state of affairs that we, most of us at least, want to see. And that's a subject that's always fraught with caveats and assumptions, but nevertheless it's something that we can talk about. The fact is that it's very hard to prove the value of artistic activities according to most of the political and economic metrics and the other criteria of our number-obsessed system. The measures we actually have to constitute social and cultural value are sadly so narrowly defined and biased in that expressions of art hardly get a look in at the political or the economic level. They're seen as luxuries, they're seen as things apart. So how on earth, from that lowly position, can art change the world? That's the question that we need to ask here. And that question is answered, I think, by not looking at the kinds of continuities of four-year political cycles or quarterly numbers in a company, but actually it's done by looking at much longer-term stretches of time, longer-term senses of where we might be going and what might be changing in the world. And those longer-term bases are, I think, at this moment, at a kind of tipping point, at a moment where things might be radically changing. Now that change is represented, I think, by an understanding that 500 years of history have, or can be summarized more or less, in the idea that we have a colonial modern society in collapse. Now I say colonial modern as a single concept because it's made up of these two ideas, coloniality, the colonial, and modern. And these two ideas have been kept artificially apart, but are completely dependent upon one another. And they're the ideas which have caused us so much problems in the current situation, whether it's the climate change, where it's the kind of situations that we've seen in the past in the videos. It is modern coloniality, colonial modernity, that puts us in the situation we are now. And in order to step away from that, we have to create a radical imagination, as Mitchell spoke about, a radical imagination in which it might be possible to see the world otherwise. Now, there's a famous quote when I was a child growing up in the United Kingdom by the then leader, Margaret Thatcher, who spoke always in her policies about the idea that there is no alternative. Now, she was one of colonial modernity's greatest advocates, but that idea of that there is no alternative is so impoverished, is so dark, is so dead-ended that we barely can speak about it in terms of an artistic, cultural imagination. All we can think about it is in terms of brutal life itself. Now, I'm sensed that I'm speaking here with people for whom the idea of there is no alternative has changed. And perhaps it's changed and always was true for the majority of the world because the alternative that she was proposing was simply unacceptable for most people. That idea of there is no alternative has changed to something like, we cannot continue like this. And if that's true, if we cannot continue like this, then what we need to do is think beyond what seems to be possible, to welcome the tipping point that we talked about in colonial modern society that I just mentioned, to welcome that and understand it as a possibility to go beyond. And in order to go beyond, we need not the numbers, the quarterly numbers. We don't need the 4-year political cycle. We need another kind of imagination. Indeed, I think art can only work its imaginative magic, its imaginative capacity, if there is acceptance that the colonial modernity of today has come to an end. And it's ended economically. We see that in the failure of the growth model, which existed for most of the 20th century. Ended politically, ended ethically, ended culturally. Only then, once we accept that, can we as a species start to look at how it might be possible to find a new balance across the life on this planet. And even then, change is hard. But to help us, we have art. We have the capacity to think and to imagine otherwise. And it's worth heeding then the words of the great science fiction writer Octavia Butler in this regard. She wrote in a book called The Parable of the Sower, all that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. I want to draw out 2 aspects from this short quote. The first is about the idea of change itself. Butler makes clear that change is inevitable, but what and how things change are subject to an entangled interplay between you and the all that you can touch. Having the capacity to touch, therefore, is crucial to influencing change for the better. And I think that's what Stichting Doen make possible. They give, and we just saw a beautiful example in the video, they give an idea or a possibility for people to touch change. But that touch is not individual. We touch collectively. People have the capacity to support themselves and others by developing instruments that help us to reach out and touch, to connect, and to feel. These are our social tools. And art is perhaps the primary instrument that humans have developed to learn how to touch with their senses and through their imagination to touch others. That imagination is importantly not just the individual's own, but that of somebody else, the artist, with whom the receiver can form a bond of empathy and appreciation. That's what art does at its best. It allows someone else's mind and body into another person so that an individual can reach out and touch beyond herself towards a sense of a collective. That moment of touching in common, which is a thrilling moment, is what gives the chance to change at all. The second aspect of the quote of Octavia Butler that I want to address, it comes from the title of the book in which it's found, The Parable of the Sower. A sower needs a soil on which to spread their seeds. And if we choose for a moment to understand the potential bettering of society as the growth of a seed, a good seed, then isn't one of our collective and individual tasks to ensure that a good nurturing soil exists on which those seeds can germinate? I would say that's precisely what Stichting DOEN are trying to make happen, and their greener, creative, and socially just goals are those that will produce a better soil. After all, if we look at the conditions in this planet, then we need a soil that is nurtured by the people who exist on its surface. And in return, that soil will nurture us back. It will become a blessed soil, a soil in which roots can grow. Now, that colonial modern society, with its econometrics and its concern for material growth as the only panacea, has left such considerations of the soil behind. Indeed, in the last century, it has basically contributed only to the impoverishment of the vitality of the soil, both literally, soil is in a terrible state in the world if you look, and metaphorically. Our soil needs feeding again. It needs building up. And it is here where I'm convinced that art has agency and an urgent current role to play. Art is the nutrient that feeds the imagination of a better world, and without it, people end up in the colorless, sense-deprived space of there is no alternative. Because it is the best of art that can help any one of us to exceed the social expectations around us, to resist, to protest, to propose a better way. It does this not simply by feeding the individual imagination, but becoming the distillation of a collective imaginary, a way of communicating imaginative possibility so that it doesn't remain a strange fantasy in somebody's head, but starts to shape change by touching many people at the same time. To change for the better certainly asks Western societies to let go of the core myths of modernity and capitalism. That's obvious, but that isn't enough. To change is also to propose what needs to be different and act as though it is already changed. To touch is to change. Touching and changing happen at the same time. What I see in my experience of artists today is that the best of them are telling us that human culture is an interdependent thing. It shapes the qualities of relationships between humans and other living beings. Artworks are the best way to begin that journey towards an equilibrium of change. Artworks are the things that take us from where we are now to a world that we need to create in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles Escher. And have we not noticed in the last 2 years how much we can miss art and how important it is? So thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's really touching.
Thank you.
Let's go to some of the questions that we received for you. So do stay with me.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go to the questions. The first one I received is, change is vital. That's also something you say, everything changes. It's a question we've been asking a few of the guests here today. Is there anything the DOEN Foundation should change, in your opinion?
I think what was interesting in the answers that we got was the idea of this networking is becoming more and more important, no? And it's important at a physical level rather than only at a digital level.
Yeah.
So I think what Stichting DOEN has done in the past and should continue to do is to try and bring people physically together. I think the impoverishment of the communication we have on screen, and I'm afraid that's what's happening
not
here.
now, the rest of the time.
That impoverishment is something we need to take account of in the kinds of decisions that we're being made. We're controlled by technology that wants us to measure ourselves in terms of growth and econometrics and the very things that have programmed the Zooms in the first place.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that we communicate with our bodies, with our senses. Our capacity for communicating is not restricted to the visual and to the screen. No. So what I would say is, if Stichting DOEN can invest in bringing bodies together, however difficult it is with Corona, then that's really something valuable. And I think that's where the imagination starts. Yeah. You never imagine something looking at a screen. You always imagine it looking in somebody's eyes.
Well, it's harder, let's say that at least, because it will be part of our lives for a little while, I do think, but completely you're right, of course.
But
this
if we know that we're missing that,
yes,
then we can do something about it. If
absolutely,
we imagine the digital is good enough,
yeah,
we'll be in trouble.
But never think that it's good enough. Indeed, you're right. And I'm so happy to be able to look you in the eyes at
Me
this
too.
moment.
Thanks.
Arthur asks, do we still need to frame radical imagination as art? Do we need the notion of art at all? Thanks for your question.
Yeah, it's a little like Mitchell's answer as well. I mean, ideally, in a sense,
Yeah,
we wouldn't need it, no? But we still live in a society where things and knowledges are so separated,
yeah,
and we find difficulty building them together. So we need a territory where the imagination has a certain privilege. My worry, if we got rid of art, was that everything would become the quarterly numbers of a corporation. The danger of losing the possibility of art until we've changed the colonial modern is that there's nowhere to think it differently.
yeah.
And so that's why art is still precious. At some point in a society, it can be fully integrated. I don't have any long-term desire to keep art separate, but I have the desire to keep a space which is valued by society, even by the Dutch government, which funds it. Yeah? So it clearly feels a certain guilt, yeah, if it didn't fund it. It feels that there's something that's necessary to keep separate from the market.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what we need to see art as being.
So you see that as a vital role for art as well, to make sure that the market doesn't invade everything?
I think the art has been incredibly marketized the last 30 years. But that's not what art is about. Yeah. That's the tragedy of it. Art is not there to make a profit. Art is to spend the profit that other people make. Yeah. It's to burn the excess.
And it also shows that profit is not just money. Profit can be, I would say, anything that brings wealth, but is not money at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's building the idea of a common, a communal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what gives us profit, actually. The individual is subject to the communal, not the other way around, and that's where we get it wrong. Yeah. And art can show us that, because the Picasso painting that everybody can look at is something that connects everybody.
So how can we use the power of art, the art of imagination, if you like, in our daily lives? All of us who are watching, what can we do from now on to sort of use that to change the world for the better? In a few words, if you like.
I think you need to go and experience the art that's available, hopefully in common, in spaces like theatres and museums and other kinds of gathering places. Yeah. And I think allow that to enter into you. You've got to be vulnerable. If you want to be untouched, then you cannot touch. And the touching is what makes that imagination possible. So you have to touch, and to reach out is always to be vulnerable. That's the biggest test, because we're super scared of being vulnerable.
Yeah, we are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Charles Escher, thank you. Right, after this, very inspiring and uplifting, I'd say. I really yearn for all of this. I'm sure you do too on the other side of this lens for me. We will now again welcome two DOEN partners. They use the power of imagination to make their ideas for a more social, more sustainable world come to life. Don't forget to ask them your questions. Please welcome from the Sociale Sportschool, Sjaak Langeberg, and from Blue City, Nienke Binnendijk. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So happy to have you. Sjaak, to start with you, the Sociale Sportschool, or the social gym.
Social gym, yes.
Yes, it combines, you say, a serious workout with also a social component, because people go on a boot camp with elderly in a wheelchair, and they use the wheelchair as a fitness station.
That's right.
Now, I think the question everyone wants to know, how did this idea come up in your head?
Yeah. Well, it started in 2013. We were asked by the Stedelijk Museum in Den Bosch, in the south of Holland, to do a project which was called Reinventing Happiness. Well,
okay.
That's quite a task.
Yes, it is.
So we try to make it a bit more manageable. And we are very interested in organizations and how sometimes people get stuck in a role. And we knew a lot of stories of care organizations who are struggling a bit with getting volunteers, and especially younger volunteers, because they they had some volunteers, they were themselves older, and these volunteers were sometimes stuck in a role like, okay, that's the way I do it around here.
Yeah.
And there's a new generation of elderly with different needs. And so they thought, yeah, we want to recruit new volunteers. How do we do it? And we started with setting up a little office within a care organization called That's the Way We Do It Around Here. And all kinds of people came up to us. And we started to find out, what is the network? Is there a new network? And we talked to a lot of people. A lot of people complained. About a lot of things.
Yes.
That's an important activity of elderly.
Yeah,
so,
an important sort of change also.
So we make that official and said, we have the Grumble Club for it.
Yes.
You can be a part of it. But to make a long story short, what we found out, when you recruit volunteers, don't mention that you need volunteers. It's in the word.
Right.
Because not everyone will be interested. A lot of people will say, I don't have enough time.
No.
And then we thought, okay, there are a lot of youngsters who go 3 or 4 or 5 times a week to the gym.
To the gym, that's what they do.
Okay,
yes.
so they have a lot of time to exercise. Can we combine the two? So it's a bit of a, not inviting people to volunteer, but it's a bit of a hidden agenda.
It's very clever.
Yeah. And then we started it small, did a prototype, so a local gym, a local elderly care home, got people together, so you don't go to a park and meet a bench, but a real somebody in a wheelchair, and together they go on boot camp. And there's also an important thing that it's a real tough workout, so it's not doing something really nice for someone who's old. No, it's the combination of the two.
I would love to go. I'm already like
you're welcome,
into it. Yes, thank you. I'm sure Corona has been quite difficult for you.
Yeah.
The combination of elderly, vulnerable people, and of course not being able to do gym work at all.
That's right.
Is there another sort of obstacle or challenge that you sort of encountered that you feel could be interesting for others to hear about?
The first time we did it, everyone looked at us. When's the next time? So it grew and it became a foundation, and so there are different bootcamp clubs everywhere. But one thing was, okay, it was now a strange combination because I'm an artist. So it's somewhere in between a real exercise, a performance with a wink in the eye. So when other people did it in other cities, we always looked, okay, is it still the same, or is it a weaker version? Is it still what we started? And sometimes it's changed for the better. Yeah. But sometimes it didn't. And we thought, that part. So the way we put it out with instruction videos, which were also very serious, a serious exercise, but also a bit witty. Yeah. And so that was a really important part also to involve young people, because they saw these videos and they say, oh yeah, I want to take part. And so to stay in this level, have the same quality, that was an important thing.
Yeah,
working with a lot of people within a platform. Yeah.
Thanks so much. I can't wait to start, and maybe also internationally people are now watching and thinking
we're not working internationally already.
No, but from today you'll get requests, I'm sure. Nienke, Blue City in Amsterdam, in Rotterdam, apologies, is a place for circular entrepreneurs with a shared vision, I'd say, an economy without waste, if I can sort of put it quite bluntly. Like-minded innovators meet at your place to become even stronger, make more impact, but also to, for instance, experiment with developing future-proof materials in the Blue City lab, right? Where did this idea come from? How was that born, the idea of Blue City and the Blue City lab?
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate Stichting DOEN on behalf of all the more than 45 entrepreneurs in Blue City. Many of them collaborate with Stichting DOEN on a very structural or project-based basis, and I'm bringing a bag of congratulations and gratitude. So that's
thank you
for the team and for everyone around the Stichting, the foundation. So how was Blue City born? Actually, from frustration. The circular economy, or an economy that fits within the limits of our planet, still is a paper reality for most of the concepts that are there. And Blue City was founded by a group of entrepreneurs who were already doing it and decided to combine forces and create an ecosystem of entrepreneurs to speed up this real circular economy. It started a few months before the Paris Agreement was signed, but it's still quite relevant because let's stop talking, start experimenting, shaping this economy that we, I think, all desire and in the end need for our own survival.
I guess, yes. I mean, we're not done yet. We need to start really dig deep and go for it. Now, you have quite a few entrepreneurs working from Blue City. You were just mentioning around 45, right? What does it mean to them to be part of such an exemplary circular city almost? How does that sort of help them?
Well, it's a very inspiring setup, not only because it's in an abandoned swimming pool, as you can see on the pictures, but also because there are so many different disciplines working in Blue City. We have the beer brewer connected to the algae growers, Piro, and they didn't choose to collaborate, but since the CO2 of the beer brewer is feeding the algae in nature, why not try that while you're happen to be neighbors? And I think that's the power of a diverse ecosystem, and that's the power of Blue City, and that's what makes it super cool and inspiring to entrepreneur there.
And even just to walk around there, you can already feel it and see it happening. It's an amazing place. If you ever get to go, do visit. In one sentence, what will be your dream for Blue City?
More circular entrepreneurs.
Okay, you want to grow bigger?
Yeah,
I like
grow
it.
bigger, get copied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of spread it around the world, right? World domination. Yes. Really good. You didn't say that. That were my words. For the both of you, what role does imagination play in your work, looking at a challenge from a different perspective or another way? Is that something that's important to your work?
Yeah, it's our main practice as an artist, of course, and then also, talking about radical imagination. How can you translate it to sometimes really small things, which can grow, like the social gym? It really started very small, with 24 people getting together, having fun together, discovering things. It's my main job, I think.
But for people who are not artists, if you're a social entrepreneur and you're not an artist, could you also use this kind of thinking for your work? You're nodding.
Yes, totally. I think a social entrepreneur or an entrepreneur who is pioneering, or as how we call it, pioneering.
Yes.
It's very, very. It's your tool to. You start imagining a concept or an idea, and then you give it form. For instance, the dress I'm wearing is made by an entrepreneur that has now formed a consortia in Blue City in the lab, and the entrepreneur is called Fabulous Fungi. Mm-hmm. Nobody. This dye industry in the fashion industry, it's such a drama, and it's a sort of where to start, right? How to change that macroeconomic drama. And yes, she did by creating pigment with the help of fungi, and she created 5 items, which I'm wearing one of.
I'm quite jealous that you're wearing one of them. It's amazing.
Yes, I'm
the dye is made by fungi, dyed by plants, really, in that way.
Yes, and imagined first by an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And that's important because these fungi didn't dye the dress themselves.
No, she made it happen.
So that's a beautiful collaboration, and I think that's the power of entrepreneurs that they share with artists, like, here's a path where others see a minefield.
Or a problem.
Or a problem.
Yeah. It's a challenge. So good. Thanks so much. I'm going to quickly go to some of the questions that our viewers have for you. Thank you so much. Jacques, where do you see room for even bigger steps or improvement? I'm going to say, just because this is the theme of today, for yourself, but also maybe name one for the DOEN Foundation.
Sometimes for us it's also know your role. So you start this, and you have to know what you're good at, and also, when the network becomes bigger, who you will invite within the network. Right. So that's actually in the phase we are in now. So we started this as artists. We invited other people within it. What is our role? And are there maybe more better people who we can hand out to make it bigger, to improve it with other skills that we don't have.
Yes.
So it's this combination which is can get it bigger, and which we already had a focus on, but now, it's really important in this phase.
Yeah. So that's important to realize, what other skills do you need? Where can you get it from? How can you create?
Yeah, and also talking about DOEN, what I really like about DOEN, DOEN is not only about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Also in the relationship with DOEN, it's always about talking together. The people mentioned the network, but also giving room for things. I remember that one time I sat with somebody from DOEN within another project, and before that I was sitting with somebody from a care organization, and I said, I'm going to suggest that we're doing a project which is about being less effective, because everything was effective. And then she said to me, you're not going to say this to Stichting DOEN? Yes, I'm going to say this. She came up and that's a good idea. We're going to work on that together.
Yeah, and it's also important to be open for change and for feedback and all of that. Because, of course, we can all say the DOEN Foundation is amazing, and we all agree and feel that way, I think. But it's also important to make sure that there's still always eyes are kept open for, where you need to go and where you need to improve.
Yeah.
Shortly, for the two of you, also I'm going to say in one or two sentences, how do you share the sort of knowledge and expertise that you acquire a lot of experience along the way as you are growing and evolving? How do you share that in a way that's also useful to others? Well, that's a very short answer.
Okay, let me divide that in two parts. As a professional, I tend to talk and share a lot, also on LinkedIn, beautiful failures, learnings, etc.
Yeah.
And as Blue City, we made it as one of our key activities by organizing structural programming. So we have a variety of meetups, podcasts, in case you're looking for ideas and best practices in growing in a good way. For instance, we have a terrific podcast that's called Growing in a Good Way, but then in Dutch.
In Dutch, yeah.
Goed groeien.
Goed groeien.
That's so.
Different ways.
Yeah, different ways. Very important
what you learn.
To share and unlock.
Yeah.
Knowledge and failures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shortly, anything to add?
Yeah, we share it a lot in these situations. But maybe one important thing to say.
Oops. If it's chance, it will be luck.
Yeah. From the perspective of art, that you could say we share the knowledge, but it's more about an attitude. It's not like, okay, we found out this methodology, or so, okay, this is what we found out, and we can do the next thing, because another situation is totally different. So it's more about an attitude to just start with things. But there are so many organizations who start with a work group, but they don't work, they talk a lot. And that's a big difference.
Less talking, more doing, and you start. Thank you so much. Jacques Langeberg, Nienke Binnendijk, thank you so much. Right, let's have a quick look at our own sustainable behavior and our future-proof behavior. Please put your answer to the following questions in the poll lab. Question number 1. how sustainable are you yourself? You can choose A, I don't drive a car, B, I never eat meat, C, I have solar panels on my house, or I hardly buy new clothes or other stuff. Of course, you can also choose a couple of these if you do more of them. I'm going to quickly have a look. I never eat meat is on top at the moment, and people don't seem to buy much stuff as well. Oh, now the clothes or other stuff is on top. The meat and the clothes, I'm going to say, is probably solar panels, not so much, and quite some people still drive a car. The next question is, which of these options is the most impactful one looking at the environment? So which one would be the best one to do? Again, A, I don't drive a car, B, I never eat meat, C, I have solar panels on my house, or D, I hardly buy new clothes or other stuff. Here you can only choose one because there's only one right answer. Most people seem to go for the meat, I never eat meat. Buying new clothes, not so much the car or the solar panels, but 60% it's now settled on, 58%, I never eat meat. The right answer is D. I hardly buy new clothes or other stuff because research shows that the environmental impact of our stuff is actually the biggest. But, of course, according to the United Nations, eating less meat and dairy is also one of the most important things you can do yourself for a better world. So they are both really good answers. Thank you so much. Right, time for a cultural intermezzo. Choreographer and theatre maker Mohammed Yusuf Bos created a performance about what it's like to grow up in the Netherlands as a first-generation Somali. One's history is not in the past, it's something that is stored inside you. That's how he explores his bicultural background. What happens when two people with a shared history meet? We will watch the opening dance of the performance called Li. It will be danced by Mohamed Nalea, Ser Sebiko, and Shara Maskant. After that, you will hear a poem by Zakaria Ahmed. He wrote this poem in honor of his father, and it's also part of Li. Here they are.
Voor mijn vader ben ik zijn hart stil. De pijn, de tranen die waren gegeven, waren misschien voor hem iets te emotioneel. De kamers waarin we samen waren, leek hij stil. Maar een man met vele gedachten. Als hij sprak, kon hij mens harten verzachten. Als hij praat, keken wij als zonen en kinderen naar hem toe, als soldaten, wachtend op zijn opdrachten. De dingen die hij mij meegaf als zijn zoon, was liefde, hoop en de kracht tot nieuwe bewegingen. De dingen die hij me meegaf zijn, sta sterk in je schoenen. Wees een man. Een man is niet iemand die sterk is of kan slaan, maar is juist iemand die de woede en hitte in zijn hoofd kan overslaan.
A huge round of virtual applause for Mohammed Nalea Serbiko, Shara Maaskant and Zakaria Ahmed. Very special. Thank you so much. Sigrid van Aken is CEO of the Postcode Lotteries, and she has sent her happy 30-year wishes for DOEN Foundation in a video message.
It's great that you joined this birthday party of the DOEN Foundation. The name DOEN is about doing, of course. Let me pose a question. Do you have any idea what the D in DOEN stands for? The letter D stands for duurzame, sustainable, and the other letters for ontwikkeling and natuurbehoud, that is development and nature conservation. This was way before the word sustainable came high on the agenda. DOEN is the first lottery foundation of the United Postcode Lotteries, and for that reason has a special place in our heart. A lottery is a wonderful mechanism to raise money. The Postcode Lottery started in 1989 in the Netherlands to raise funds for charities because we believe the world is better off with a strong civil society. All those social initiatives are forces for change, for causes we all care about. Today there are 5 Postcode Lotteries in 5 countries, and in the Netherlands we also operate the Vriendenloterij. We have a social purpose and bring together business and ideals. With our lotteries and players, we aim to raise as much funding as possible to support the work of green and social initiatives, big and small, on a local and global level. In our view, these initiatives benefit most from unrestricted and long-term funding, and that's why we have this flexible way of funding, to give the charities the opportunity to take immediate action, to respond quickly to social needs, or to invest in a long-term strategy. Charities and social initiatives like you know what works best, where and when. Our lottery players become members as we are subscription-based. The Postcode Lottery is a unique format. Tickets relate to the player's own postal codes. This way, everyone playing in the same street or area can win together and share prizes. We raise about 800 million euros per year. Our 13 million loyal players in 5 countries enable us to do all this. They enjoy playing the Postcode Lottery because of the many prizes that people can win together with their neighbors. And also for the unique Postcode Lottery events and TV shows. Prizes are not only in cash, also in kind, like books, bikes and sustainable products. And often these are supplied by partners of DOEN, social enterprises in which DOEN participates, like Seepje, Naïef, Koekenbakkers and I Did. We engage with our players by sharing stories about the work of the charities, about the results and the positive impact that have been achieved for people and planet. We have now, since the start, been able to donate over 11 billion euros to hundreds of charities and social organizations, as well as thousands of smaller community grants, such as the Postcode Lottery Neighborhood Fund, which was set up by DOEN to provide financial support for people who take initiatives in their communities to connect people in their neighborhood and make it more livable. United Postcode Lotteries is the third largest private donor in the world, right after the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Wellcome Trust. The DOEN Foundation receives an annual contribution of approximately 30 million euros from the Nationale Postcode Loterij and the Vriendenloterij. At the lottery, we get inspired by all those initiatives, by all those people who turn their ideas into action, of which many are present today. And we love to share your stories and accomplishments with the players of the lottery. Some of these pioneers also develop into direct partners of the lottery, as has already happened more than 75 times in recent years. The success of the DOEN Foundation has led to postcode lottery foundations in the other countries. You form a fantastic international team. We feel proud that DOEN, despite being 30 years old already, is so up-to-date and connected to all of you, changemakers, social entrepreneurs, all those forces for good in society. You change people's lives. We wish you much inspiration and success in your adventures. We look forward to your stories. And on behalf of all my colleagues, I congratulate the DOEN Foundation on this jubilee. And lots of green, social and creative impact.
Thank you so much, Sigrid. And please welcome back Carol Gripnau. Welcome. Here in the Netherlands, about 40% of households play the lottery each month. What does that mean to the DOEN Foundation?
Yeah, that's really incredible.
It's incredible.
Isn't it? Yeah,
yes.
and I'm relatively new to this lottery environment, and I must say I find the entrepreneurial spirit of the lottery really amazing. And every day we can see what can be done with the lottery proceeds. So I'm really proud and grateful to all the lottery colleagues because it's really true their passion for civil society and their continuous drive to sell lottery tickets that DOEN has been able to support so many pioneers over the past 30 years. As Sigrid also mentioned, it's also through the communication channels of the lotteries that we're able to share the inspiring stories of the pioneers that we're supporting, and that really also inspire people, households in the Netherlands, about a better world. And as also mentioned and shown in the video, the prizes the lottery provides also allow us to share products that have been developed by our partners, sustainable and fair products with a very large audience. So I deeply value the relationship we have with the lotteries.
I can imagine, indeed. Now, let's maybe ask our viewers, our partners, everyone who's watching, what they feel the DOEN Foundation should focus on in, let's say, the next 5 years in one word. So go to the poll section and fill in your one word that the DOEN Foundation should prioritize for the coming years. We'll come back to you with what you say in a moment. I'm curious. Now, Carol, this event saw a big role for imagination, for artists, for different perspectives. Why is that imagination and that view so important for the DOEN Foundation?
Yeah, I think many of the speakers have already alluded to that. I mean, if we look at the world today, we see so many very complex and interconnected problems. I mean, we have climate change, there's a biodiversity crisis, there's growing inequality, polarization, and so on. And so what it all tells us is that we need to fundamentally change our society. But what does that mean? I mean, what is that image of a new and better society? I think we have difficulties in imagining what that could look like. The pioneers that DOEN is supporting, they all have ideas and images of what that better world could look like. We've talked about the role of arts and culture in that specific role of arts and culture, but also a social entrepreneur with new products like a Fairphone is really using imagination to see how to change that whole mobile phone industry, for instance, or Blue City also alluded to that. So I think imagination is really key in helping us to see that better world that we really are longing for.
And that is what we need, of course, a better world. It needs change. So what will the DOEN Foundation focus on in the coming years? What are you going to do?
Well, we will continue, of course, to support pioneers across in the Netherlands and abroad. But people have also mentioned that, you know, the need to connect those pioneers to create a larger force for change and to have a larger say in how we should shape our society. I think that's really critical. And also, I mean, looking at the world, I mean, you can sometimes feel quite pessimistic, but I think it's these stories of change that are really inspirational. So I think it's also sharing those stories, making it visible is really something we will continue to focus on.
Good. Now let's see what our viewers think you should prioritize for the next few years. Let's have a look at what you've said. There's biodiversity there's climate change, there's happiness, there's a new Earth. That could be complex, but it's good to dream big. I think, is there anything that sticks out to you that you feel is interesting?
Well, I really like the radical empathy also. I think it's very much related to people being connected. I think as DOEN we really believe that it's the collective power that is very important. So people need those connections, not only within their bubble, but also, you know, outside the bubble. And that requires really empathy. So I'm quite intrigued by that one.
Good. And also, could it be something that you could prioritize more within your work?
Yeah, I think it's already part of the work. Maybe we don't mention it so explicitly, but I think it's really part of how we look at the importance of collectives.
Yes. Yeah. And it's also something that's been mentioned quite a bit today. Yeah. So that could be interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That is very, very inspiring. You just mentioned the word pessimism, but are you optimistic deep down inside about the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm really proud of all the pioneers that DOEN has supported over the past 30 years. I think they really show that things can be done differently. They give hope and inspiration about this better world, this fairer, sustainable and more creative world that we really need. So I feel very privileged to be able to connect to them on a daily basis. Yeah. But I agree, I mean, if we look at the world today, I think we need their ideas more than ever. And I think the big challenges we see also that they are difficult to address at a global scale or even at a national level, or that they are not being addressed with the urgency that is really required. Yeah. And so what I really believe in is that the solutions can be found at the local level. They can not only be found, they are already present in our society. Yeah. They have been developed over the past years by many people, including artists, including impact-driven entrepreneurs or engaged citizens. So these solutions are there. And I think what it really takes us is to really support those frontrunners, those pioneers, to connect them and to allow them to have a larger say in how we shape our society.
Really,
and if we do that, then I'm really optimistic about our future.
That sounds amazing. Let's go for it, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Carol Gripnau, thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't think of a better way to end this event. That was a surprise. There is lots of festivities going on here. Many thanks to everyone who was part of this program and also everyone who made it possible. And of course, we're very grateful to you, amazing pioneers with brilliant ideas and solutions who offer us belief and inspiration. We hope that through this event you feel connected and part of this larger movement of innovators even more. On behalf of everyone at the DOEN Foundation, thank you for celebrating our anniversary with us, and we look forward very much to continue on this impactful journey together, because together we can and we will achieve a more sustainable, social and creative world. Thank you.